that there may not be a police solution to the demonstration, and that the institutions and police services were unprepared for the convoy. In his response, Minister Bill Blair said, "I accept Chief Sloly's assessment that he was unprepared for what took place in Ottawa." I want to give you a chance to respond to that. Were you unprepared for what happened in Ottawa, or was the Ottawa Police Service unprepared for what happened here?
Well, unfortunately, the context in which I made my statement was clearly misunderstood. Let me be clear, and I said it again today. Institutions, public institutions across this country were unprepared for what happened during those weeks. That included police services and national security organizations. And yes, that includes the Ottawa Police Service. But there were structural deficits across multiple institutional lines.
And within the OPS, sir, there had been reporting, at least through the RCMP, about internal documents that were worried about the threat of Mounties sympathetic to leaking information to convoy protesters. There were certainly, there was firsthand accounts and live streams of the relationship that seemed to form between some officers in a very cooperative way and the occupation. In the lead up to it, and in fact on your resignation on the 15th of February, you stated that you were confident that the Ottawa Police Service was better positioned to end the occupation. So what changed materially from when you took on the pre-planning for this and when you resigned? Did the morale or did the actions or inactions of your officers have anything to do with it?
Singularly, the difference in my statement that we were better prepared. We had a significantly upgraded plan from almost a week before. That plan called for a massive incursion of resources. I had identified 1,800. Ultimately, there were 2,000.
So if you were prepared and you had a plan, why resign?
If you're asking the reason for my resignation,
correct.
Sir, thank you. There are a number of reasons that go into any person's decision to resign, particularly from a high-profile public office. Many of them are extremely personal to me and my family, but the number one reason was for public safety. The reason for public safety was that there was increasing levels of doubt about the capabilities of the Ottawa Police Service, lowering levels of public trust in the midst of an unfolding local and national security crisis. And when trust starts to leave policing, that increases public safety risks. As the head of the organization, I had accountability for the organization. And I made a decision, ultimately, I made a decision for public safety to remove myself from the equation.
Do you feel that perhaps you took too much of a center stage? I mean, obviously, in policing, in the position that you're in, you would have deputies who would be operational. Which deputies would have been operational to the implementation and planning processes?
The operational deputy was Acting Deputy Chief Trish Ferguson.
And the interim Chief Bell, what role would Chief Bell have played?
He was assigned intelligence operations.
Okay. Because from my standpoint, and from many other people from the outside looking in, it looked like perhaps there may have been a scenario where you didn't have complete command and control over frontline officers. Is that a fair or unfair assessment?
Our frontline officers did an amazing job in almost unhuman circumstances, minus 35-degree temperatures for weeks on end. Our frontline members, civilian and sworn, did a great job as much as they possibly could in those circumstances and throughout my tenure as chief of police.
Sir, the plan didn't work, right? Like they doubled down on the occupation with coordination with the city. They occupied a staging area at Coventry. They were bringing in diesel. We know through past threat assessments that having design threats are a major issue coming out of the Toronto 18, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and our former member, Vern White, had referenced in previous testimony. So the plan actually didn't work leading up to that, and yet upon your resignation, it was your assertion that they were better prepared to take on the threat.
The plan worked, sir. There was a safe and successful end to the occupation and the national security crisis. It was based on the plan that was updated and continuously evolved through every day in office. My statement in my last day in office affirmed that we had a plan, we were now receiving significant new levels of resources, and that we could foresee an end, a safe, successful, lawful end to the events here and nationally. And that is what happened within the week.
Thank you very much. Mr. Green, your time is up. Mr. Green, can I ask you to time? I'm up next.
Happy to do that. Senator Boniface, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Sloly, thank you for your service, both domestically and internationally. I want to step back a bit to the early days. I believe that you said or made reference to some negotiations that took place with the protesters. I'm somewhat familiar with how that would take place as they came certainly across the country and then into the city of Ottawa. Would you conclude at least